Everyone, Charlie here. Today I wanted to do my first video, and I wanted my first video to be about the Dana Bradley case. Dana lived in Newfoundland, and that could be one of the reasons I wanted to start with this video, because I'm actually from Newfoundland as well, and I believe every Newfoundlander wants to see this case solved. It's a case that's been active since the 80s, and I truly believe it's solvable. So let's jump right into it. Dana Bradley was a young woman who went missing in St. John's, Newfoundland on December 14th, 1981 at the age of 14. St. John's is the capital and the largest city in Newfoundland. There were about 80,000 residents at the time of Dana's disappearance. Newfoundland is known as a safe place where everyone speaks to everyone, a place where community is meaningful. To date, Dana Bradley's case is still unsolved and is still labeled an active investigation. Here I will show you a photo of Dana. This is what she looked like at the time of her disappearance. And now I'll show you a map of Canada in case you're not from here and you would like to know more about where this was located. On your far right hand side, you'll see the pink sections. On top is Labrador, and then below is Newfoundland, and the star indicates St. John's, and St. John's is where Dana lived. Dana lived with her mother and her stepfather. Dana's parents do not speak to the media much, and therefore I will leave their names out of this video. On December 14th, Dana went to school the same as any other day. She decided to spend time at a friend's house after school and then would attend a family member's birthday party. Many accounts that I had read indicated it was actually her mother's birthday that day. She told her mother she would be back for the celebration, and when she didn't return, her family reported her missing. After Dana was reported missing, 2 men advised police they saw Dana Bradley that day. Harry Smeaton and his brother may have been the last people to see Dana before she was brutally assaulted and murdered. Harry told police the pair had been selling Christmas trees on the side of Topsail Road when he saw Dana hitchhiking and get into a car with a male driver. The car she entered was described as a 73 to 76 Dodge Dart or Plymouth Valiant 4-door sedan. The car was beige, tan, or faded yellow and was rusted. This occurred across from the Tim Hortons on Topsail Road at about 5:20 p.m. Mr. Smeaton was quoted as saying, "I wish I had the wherewithal to get the plate number, but at the time it was a different place." I can say with personal experience, even though I was born after this case took place, that I always felt safe in Newfoundland. Even walking alone at night, I never felt scared to do that. And even though I didn't hitchhike, I'm not surprised people did so. And I'm not surprised that people felt comfortable enough to do that. And even if people hitchhike today in St. John's, I wouldn't be surprised. I'm not saying you should hitchhike, you shouldn't. I'm just saying I'm not surprised that people do that. Another quote from Mr. Smeaton: "I guess you could say what haunts me the most is that I believe there must be someone out there that has answers, that knows something, and hasn't come forward." I completely agree with this statement here. I truly believe someone knows something. And if you do know something, please bring that information to police. I have the information in the description box below, and if you would prefer to be anonymous, I've also put the Crime Stoppers information in the description box below as well. If it's someone you're friends with, if it's a family member, you can completely stay anonymous. Or whatever your reason for wanting to be anonymous, you can do that. Now I'll show you a photo of an example of what the car looked like. This is a black and white photo. So again, the car was beige, tan, or a faded yellow color with rust. And here I'll show you a photo of a drawing that was made from the eyewitnesses of the man who picked up Dana on Topsail Road that fateful day. I'm going to leave this photo up just so you have time to see if you recognize this person. And also think about people that you know that you believe could have looked like this in the 80s, or someone you know that did look like this in the 80s but currently looks fairly different. There's actually information that I'm going to talk about in a couple of minutes that could be used to check if it is or isn't that individual that you're thinking of. December 18th, 81, a man by the name of Dale Smith located Dana's body in a wooded area off of Maddox Cove Road, where he was searching for a Christmas tree with his family. Smith and his family walked into the wooded area, recalling there was a fresh snowfall. While looking for a tree, and luckily being in front of his family, he stumbled upon Dana's lifeless body. He recalls she was wearing blue pants and cowboy boots, and that there were toys that were dumped in the area. Apparently this was a common area for people to discard items because there wasn't any homes around. People probably wouldn't see you dropping objects off in this area. Being unsure if the girl had passed, Smith asked his wife to look. She complied and commented on how this may be the body of the missing girl, and she was referring to Dana Bradley. Smith and his wife hurried their children away from the scene and asked another person in the area that was there cutting wood to watch the scene as they left to call police. After the body was examined, it was determined this was indeed Dana Bradley. The cause of death was blunt force trauma to the head, which caused a fracture in her skull. She had also been sexually assaulted. The body was described as being placed in, quote, burial fashion with her school books tucked under her arm. Now, this piece of information that was released to the public about how her body was found makes many people believe that the killer was actually known to Dana, that this showed that this was a personal connection there, that it was someone in her life currently. And that could 100% be what this means. But I would still keep an open mind about the possibility that it isn't. I would look at both ways, that it is someone that was familiar to her, and then also it may not be someone that is familiar to her. It could be someone that doesn't even live in Newfoundland and was just visiting. I think we should keep our minds opened on this case. Here I'll show you some maps that I took from Google Maps. Here you can see the Tim Hortons, and this was where she would have been picked up on Topsail Road. This is the west end of St. John's. And here I didn't pinpoint exactly where her friend lives. I did that on purpose. I didn't think it was important to indicate exactly where she lived, but this is how long it would have taken her. It wouldn't have taken her any more than 5-6 minutes to get to the Tim Hortons there. The witnesses said that they believed that she was going to go to the bus stop, but then it looked like she changed her mind and decided to hitchhike instead. And here's another photograph showing Topsail Road, where she was picked up next to the Tim Hortons, and then Maddox Cove Road, where her body was dropped off. And that was about a 25-minute drive. And here, just because you can kind of see the area more clearly when you do a satellite image, you can see Topsail Road here, which is a part of St. John's. Then you can see Mount Pearl below. They would have had to pass through that area and then go down to Maddox Cove Road. And then I've just zoomed in on the road so you could see what it looked like. So there are many patches here like this one with just trees, no buildings, no homes in the area. There are patches with homes, but there's many like this, and I would think this is similar to the area where she was located. The investigation that followed this discovery would turn into the, quote, most expensive and exhaustive murder investigation in Canadian history. Hundreds of interviews were conducted, thousands of tips were submitted, and over 800 cars were processed by police. There were 35 investigators working on this investigation from the RCMP and the Royal Newfoundland Constabulary. I love that so much was done to try to solve this case. In 1986, there seemed to be a break in the case. A man by the name of David Grant Somerton confessed to the police that he had murdered Dana Bradley. After this confession, he was charged with the murder. Somerton later denied he murdered Dana, saying his confession was coerced, and upon further investigation, the police realized the information he originally provided them during his confession was falsified. Somerton was sentenced to 2 years in prison for public mischief in relation to a false confession. In May of 2016, there was a break in the case. A sample of DNA evidence that was collected in December of 1981 was tested using new DNA technology, and the sample was connected to a male subject that was unknown. The police used this DNA to rule out suspects on their list. To date, no persons have been identified as matching this DNA. Also in 2016, a man who would use the name Robert to protect his identity in the media told police he witnessed Dana's murder as a child and could tell police where to find the car that was used, which fit the description of the eyewitnesses. I will use the name Robert for this individual during this video. The RCMP conducted a 16-month investigation into Robert's claims and dismissed his claims. Even though the RCMP dismissed this portion of the case, Robert had many supporters that believed his story, and an excavation of 2 vehicles in Witless Bay was conducted. The car belonged to Robert's father. Robert and his father said a friend of the family was driving the car at the time of Dana's disappearance. After the car was written off, it was then buried. After the excavation was completed, it was determined there was no evidence in the vehicle due to the long period of time, around 30 years, that the car was buried, and also the car had been contaminated with other materials. The RCMP did advise, as I mentioned before, they were using the new DNA evidence to eliminate suspects, and the person accused by Robert was one of the suspects that were cleared. The family hasn't spoken much to the public about this case. In 1982, a man was sentenced to 9 months in prison for calling the family and harassing them about the case. This may be one of the reasons they do not speak out in public, so that they won't be targeted by monsters like this. Also, many people grieve in different ways and react differently. They may not ever feel comfortable talking about what happened to their daughter that day. Again, if you have any information about this case, even if you feel like it may not assist in moving it forward, please bring this information to police. For example, if you saw a car fitting that description in a different area at the time of Dana's disappearance, or if you saw a similar car years later, these may be leads that police can follow up on, and they may actually crack this case. This was the story of Dana Bradley's last day. Please be respectful in the comment section and use this forum to discuss the case. Her family may see the comments, her friends may see the comments. Please be respectful. I welcome any of you to comment about the case, and we can discuss it in the comment section. Thank you for watching the video. I hope you've obtained a lot of information about the case through this. So have a wonderful evening. Thank you so much.